Welcome back to What the Flick. I'm Matt Atchity. That's Christy Lemire. That's Alonso Duralde. Annihilation is currently in theaters. It's the latest film from Alex Garland, who directed Ex Machina, a movie a lot of people liked. This one got people a little bit more divided, although we all really liked it. But I think some audiences don't quite get the ending. Now, to be clear, if you haven't seen this movie and you're planning to, don't keep watching what we're talking about, because we are going to spoil the ever-loving heck out of this movie, because that's really the only way to have a discussion about what it all means. I myself, in the review that we put up a few days ago, talked about how I initially didn't like it, but the more I thought about it, the more I kind of changed my mind about it. And this is an opportunity for us to really talk about that. So we've also learned that this was a movie that had a different ending originally slated. There were a 10-minute sequence that director Alex Garland said that he cut out and changed the way the movie works, all of which I think ultimately benefited it. There were a lot of people who were saying originally that they thought, oh, all of that reshoot business meant the movie was a disaster.
Not at all.
I don't think so.
I have a friend in the industry who always insists if anybody says reshoot, he'll say additional photography. Because it's not always necessarily the harbinger of doom that we think it is. Just sometimes they didn't get a certain shot, or they rethink something, or whatever.
Or their star was accused of sexual misconduct.
For instance.
It has to be completely
They recast. These things happen in our world. So what? So the 10 minutes made it clearer what all happens with Natalie Portman?
I think there might be two.
It?
I'm not sure what the 10 minutes are. I know that the original ending apparently made it a little more vague as to which version of Natalie Portman emerges from the shimmer, whether it's the one who went in or the one who the clone that she sort of battles.
I think that's still vague. I think I'm not sure. We can have that conversation.
I think the way the movie is set up is that she defeats the double and emerges, but the shot of her eyes at the end, which match her husband's, imply that even if it's still her, just having been in there and coming out of it has changed her.
Because at one point she says, "It's in me, I can feel it."
Right.
Right. And then at one point, who is it? Is it Gina Rodriguez whose skin in her hands is swirling the way the guy's intestines were swirling in the video?
Also, where does the tattoo come from?
They never even talk about the tattoo, but we see something like that in the movie, right? Or is that the intestines swirling around? There's a snake-like image in the movie.
It looked like the Ouroboros kind of infinite worm that circles the...
Well, yeah, it was sort of like an Infinity 8, right?
Right. Okay, what do you think the shimmer is?
Well,
that's a question we should begin with.
So
what was the 10 minutes?
The 10 minutes was a scene where Portman's character breaks out of the building she's in and kind of fights her way out with a gun, and then sees the shimmer and then gets roped in, and they realized that didn't really fit for the character. So it was kind of this action sequence that didn't make sense. It was more... well, show me what this thing is, because she was more interested in finding her husband, played by Oscar Isaac. To your question, Christy, I don't know that it necessarily really matters what the shimmer
exactly.
was.
I think the idea of the shimmer is that we tend to think about alien invasion movies as there's this other intelligence and they want to destroy us, or they want to take our energy, or they want to take us over, or whatever. And this just feels like this sort of random natural occurrence. It could just be, something out in space that just like shoots off a spore or something and doesn't give it a second thought, doesn't care about us at all.
And it happens to hit a lighthouse, a very picturesque lighthouse.
Exactly. Well, and I was wondering, are they referencing Virginia Woolf here? You've got 5 women going to the lighthouse, But no, I think that that ultimately it's this notion of like, it's just a random thing, and it doesn't mean anything, and that's how nature so often works, is that things evolve and mutate and die and live, and there's no grand scheme of it. It just happens.
And I thought that too when I mentioned that when we reviewed it last week, our non-spoiler review. Like, I think it's about how the universe is random, because every once in a while someone will say, "What does it want?" And then somebody else will say, "Maybe it doesn't want anything." Like in Arrival, they don't want to hurt us. They want something, but they don't want to hurt us. I don't know that this thing, if it is an alien thing, wants anything. And that's like the futility of the randomness of the universe. Trying to find logic or meaning is useless.
Right.
It's nihilistic.
So there's a character early on, and I don't remember which one. It's one of the team members. It might be Tessa Thompson, who says that the shimmer is a prism, right? And it somewhat refocuses what
refracts
what it is, right? And so we see 4 women go in there that we learn are
5.
all, well, we see 4
sorry.
go in that we all know across the board are self-destructive in some way, right? Or at least as we learn more about them, we learn that they maybe have nothing to come back to. And the one that doesn't, because she says so later, is Natalie Portman, is the only one
Who comes back.
who comes back because that was the whole point of going in there, is that she meant to come back all along because Oscar Isaac has already made it out. Her husband's already made it out, even though
Her husband, a
Yes.
version of her husband.
she has to come back because she knows that he'd made, or at least the doppelganger made it out. When I think of it being a prism of all movies, in a weird way, it makes me think of John Carpenter's, I think it was Carpenter's Swamp Thing. Was it Carpenter that directed the original Swamp Thing? No, it wasn't.
No, Wes Craven.
Wes Craven's Swamp Thing, right? And the thing about the serum in the Swamp Thing, it doesn't turn everybody into a Swamp Thing. It enhances what you are,
Right.
right? Which is why when the other
Louis
character,
Jourdan.
when Louis Jourdan turns into that monster, it's because he's already a monster.
Right.
And that's what I think happens here, is that it turns these people into some other version of the self that they already are. And so in Natalie Portman's case, she is still in love with Oscar Isaac, and her husband, I mean, she's still in love with her husband, but she is also, I think it ramps up her own penchant for self-destruction because she was having that affair, we find out before.
But she ended it.
She
ends it.
did.
She knows it's wrong and she ends it.
She ends it, but I think that she can't help herself from
see.
making self-destructive choices. And so when you see her embrace the Oscar Isaac doppelganger, knowing what's going to happen to her, that's, I think, in some sense, maybe her penance for what she did to her
Real
husband,
Oscar Isaac.
her real husband.
So here's a question. So
Who, sorry to interrupt,
yeah, sorry.
who probably knew, which is why he went on that
He did. No,
suicide-
he
right.
does
He did
know.
know.
Like he's
Which
very.
is-
He. That's why when he's leaving, he's like, "I do love you."
Right.
But he's still very otherwise.
But
dis-
he goes on
he's
that
detached,
suicide mission
Yeah.
because he knows. And
But
so her
but
penance is
but
to,
ostensibly he has something to come back to as well, since a version of him did,
Right.
Okay.
which is her. You know.
So what do you guys make of the fact that the house that they enter in the Shimmer is exactly like her house in real life? It's just overgrown with vines and weeds and stuff. It's her house. It's the layout of her house.
Oh,
I didn't catch
yeah.
that at all.
Yeah, when you walk in, there's a stairway, and then to the side is like a living room and a kitchen. There's a shot from outside the kitchen, looking at the side of the kitchen table, like when you see Oscar Isaac at the side of the kitchen table.
Oh, right.
Oh, I
So
didn't
it's-
catch that at all.
So do we
Okay,
think
anyway,
do we think he created that or she created that?
Is it all in her imagination?
Well, other people are there
They
with her.
physically enter it.
Other people are there with
It's
her.
Maybe it was the
So-
same architect. The same board.
He's
It
very
was a
versatile.
prefab.
Wow, I didn't catch that at all.
Yeah, so it's,
No, I knew after I saw it, like, I'm going to see this movie again
Okay.
and get
look at
more
the
stuff
house.
out of it.
Look at the
so.
house. Yeah, but it's
Okay,
cool.
good one.
Looking in retrospect, it's cool because from the very beginning, Alex Garland's playing with the idea of like perception and, as you say, refraction. Like you see, there's a glass of water, right? And you see them having a conversation.
Oh,
it's
yeah, and
shot
through the water,
glass of
right,
water,
right.
and like they touch hands, and it's like upside down the way things look when you're looking at something through water or through.
And there's that Rosemary's Baby moment where like he comes up the stairs and like you're looking through the door and he's like right on this side of the door and you're almost like it's just like, will you come in the door already? It's, there's a lot. Yeah, again, it's about refraction and stuff. But you're right. I forgot about the water, and they do it a couple of times.
Yeah, so to sort of like, think little nuggets to set you up psychologically for what you're going to see. I'm still not sure that I know which version of Natalie Portman comes out of the Shimmer. I think you could argue it either way. I like your theory that it's real life Natalie Portman who's infected with shimmeriness, whatever it is.
I think
but
we
you
don't-
don't see who gets out. You don't see.
But don't we see her clearly defeat the
No,
doppelganger?
because the transformation has taken place. Like the face melding, whatever, has already begun taking place.
Yeah, but like
So I'm
Natalie
not sure
Portman
you
is
know.
bleeding and the double isn't, right? Isn't there
Well,
I don't know. I
I
think
would
you could argue
also-
either way.
See, I would say that it's the original infected Portman that gets out and not the doppelganger, partly because then why would we see her eyes change? Her eyes would have started that way in that very last shot, is my interpretation.
Because
of it.
maybe she had to fake being human, Natalie Portman, to get into the hospital. I don't know. They're really smart, whatever these shimmer creatures are. And what are they? What are they?
Well, again, I suspect ultimately it doesn't matter because whichever one it is, the implication is the shimmer is just going to come for everybody.
Yes, it's going to take over all of the Gulf of Mexico there. And
And eventually
Can
the
we
Earth.
talk about the thing that took me out of the movie completely?
yeah.
The talking bear.
Oh no, that was scary.
Oh, that was creepy.
That was
was,
scary. The
but then-
sound design on that.
Yeah.
But then when you
bizarre,
see it's the bear and it's talking, I'm like, Teddy Ruxpin.
It's talking because it's got a person inside of it.
Yeah, no,
know,
I thought
just
it was like a genetic thing where
Could
it
be
sort of
anything but a bear. Like,
well, okay, think of it this way. Think of it like it has some DNA of like a parrot, and it can repeat back a sound that it heard. So if while mauling Tuva Novotny, she screams, and then he mimics that scream and uses that mimicry to attract prey.
I know,
That's
I'm
an evolutionary advancement.
Yeah, I found that chilling. The only thing about that might have taken me out a little bit is that it's got some alien imagery. When the put your head in here. When the head is like no, but up. Like it was like. You know, like when it opens his mouth right there,
right, okay.
it's like when it's next to Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah,
but like they
but
can't
we've seen movies where like
move.
bears and lions do that to people too. So you know, and actually, I was thinking about Alien when they open the alligator mouth and it's got the shark teeth, like the rows and rows of But
Right, because that is becoming Sharkigator.
there you go. Sci-fi is already at work on that one. It'll
wait
be
a
on
minute.
next week.
Okay, wait a minute. So I just want to make sure we're clear on something.
Okay.
All of the crazy sci-fi movies, this is the prequel. Right?
The shimmer is what
Sharktopus.
caused the Sharknado. and
Sharktopus.
Yeah.
What else is there? Yeah, all of that stuff.
Piranodon. I don't know.
Piranodon. That's kind of awesome, actually.
Now I want to go see it again though, and with all these theories in mind as to
Yeah,
what's
no,
actually
I think this is.
happening
I think this
here.
is a movie that welcomes multiple
Yeah.
viewings.
And you got to see with your friends and have that. We have this discussion with your
Yeah.
friends and sort through it and maybe come up with no answers. At all.
Right. So hopefully you like this movie, and we haven't spoiled it completely. Up next, we're going to talk about a movie that you probably haven't seen yet because it hasn't opened yet. And this is a movie that we think you shouldn't see, and we're going to give you some better ideas. So when we come back, we're going to have recommendations instead of wasting your hard-earned money on Red Sparrow.